Strymon has released 6 updated versions of their old pedals, and in this video, I'm going to show you what I think the coolest thing you can do is with each of the 6 new versions. First, we're going to look at the BlueSky, which has a new spring reverb sound in it, which is unique to it. And I think the coolest thing to do with the new spring sound is to set the reverb time to be minimal and then set the pre-delay to be something like that. So with that setting, it won't really even be functioning as a reverb anymore. It'll be functioning almost like a slapback echo. Except that the echo is going to sound kind of like a spring reverb. And then if you run that into an already overdriven amp, the whole effect is going to be hard to define and sort of blurry, but also very cool. And it's just going to give this snap and like extra sparkle to everything you play. Next, we got the Lex. The new things with this are things you're probably not going to hear. It's all quality of life stuff. Like it's easier to choose between a mono and a stereo input now, and it has more knobs, so there's fewer hidden secondary parameters. And all of those quality of life things are also happening with every other updated pedal in the line. But since the Lex is that much easier to use now, it's worth noting that you could really think of this pedal as an amp modeler. I think normally it's like easier to think of it as like a modulation effect, like a fast chorus effect. It's doing that rotary Leslie speaker thing, and it is that. But what it's really imitating is an amplifier that has a spinning speaker. And there's a way to dial out the spinning part. You can make it not sound like a modulation effect, and then it'll just sound like an amp. And the big deal here is that you don't need an amp now for recording. You could record out of this pedal, and it'll sound like you're using an amp. It's sort of like an alternative to the Iridium, if you want to think about it that way. It's not going to sound like the amps in the Iridium, but it's going to sound good. It's just going to sound like a different amp. Next, we got the Capistan. The new thing here is that the spring reverb has its own knob. The original Capistan also had a spring reverb in it, but it was a secondary parameter. Now, it's got its own knob. And the spring reverb in the Capistan is unique. It's a different spring reverb than the other Strymon ones. And I think it sounds good too. I guess it's a little darker, but it just sounds good. This is what it sounds like if you use the Capistan just as a reverb, no echoes. Now, I honestly think it would be sort of advanced to just buy the Capistan to use it as a one-knob reverb pedal. You know, it like costs over $300. I feel like that would be sort of aggressive and hardcore. But if you want more of a pro tip than that, I'm happy to give you a real pro tip for the Capistan. The best setting in this pedal is multi-tapehead in mode B. I have no problem saying that's just the best setting. Every time I use that, I write a new song. It's like 2 different delay lines. I think I think what it is a quarter note and a dotted eighth note colliding, but it doesn't matter what it is. It's just the best setting. Next, we're going to look at the dig. The new thing here is a tone knob, which by itself maybe doesn't sound that sexy, but it's actually very useful for doing my favorite thing with the dig, which is to put it into 12-bit mode and then try to make it sound like the 12-bit thing isn't just happening to repeats, it's happening to the notes you play to start with. And the closest you can get to that is to make the delay time very fast and to give yourself a lot of repeats and to make the mix really high. And if you do that, the dig will sort of create this like metallic haze. This sounds really cool. And it'll be hard to differentiate your note from the 12-bit repeats. But there's so much feedback that it can create some out-of-control resonances. And that's part of the fun of it. But having a tone knob is actually great for pulling those resonances back into control. Next, we got the Deco. The biggest new thing here is there's a new type of tape saturation. They added cassette saturation, which I think sounds cool, but the advanced thing to do is to use that and then set up an expression pedal to control lag time. And specifically, I want you to configure it so that the expression pedal is changing lag time from here to here. That's the sweet spot. And if you do that and then you just go crazy with your expression pedal while you're playing, it's going to sound fantastic. It's going to have this like very agonizing, like stressful, like lurching forward in pain quality that I really like. Last, we got the Flint. The biggest new thing with this is that the slowest tremolo speed is now slower. In fact, it's so slow that your signal kind of disappears for a while. It's like whenever the tremolo goes out, your signal is gone. But the advanced thing to do with that is to also use the reverb that's in the pedal and set it up so that the reverb happens after the tremolo. Use these settings. And then the reverb will keep your note there even after it's disappeared. And if that happens very slowly over and over and over again, it just creates this very bizarre strange sound where it's like your notes are disappearing, but you can hear them anyway. It's really cool.